I just would like to say thank you so much to Marianne for hosting for me last month while I was in hospital. And you did an amazing job because I watched you. In fact, you're far better than me. I might just hand over to you completely. Uh, who has got a question for Jodi? Welcome, everybody. This month we're talking about Storm Christopher and Symphony of Echoes. So we'll have Jack the Ripper, dodos, and wardrobes falling on people. Who's got a question? Hands up.
This is the bit where I always panic in case
Yeah, I know,
nobody
me
ever has a
too.
question.
It's just nobody wants to be first, is all.
Oh, here we are. I have one from Ali Twist. Symphony was the first book she read, so it's very special to her. At what point when writing it did the idea of the time police occur to you? And how long did it take you to work out the alternative world solution to their arrival?
Actually, I think I was a little bit further through the books than A Symphony of Echoes. Possibly it was wallowing around in the back of my mind, you know, like pigs in mud. But I think it was round about the fourth, round about the third or fourth book that they became more tangible. People always ask me, when did I get the idea for this or that or the other? And honestly, I don't know. They just kind of seem to grow in my mind, these ideas, like mold. I think Terry Pratchett described it in one of his books as a sleet of inspiration sleeting down. And sadly, I don't have that. It just starts off as a thought and mushrooms from there, sometimes with good results, but I have to say sometimes with not.
Right, I've got lots more questions here. Joe Tetzab, how many theories did you read about Jack the Ripper, and did anyone particularly seem most likely?
No, I didn't actually. I've read books years and years ago when I was young about it being a possible royal prince or Victoria's personal doctor, or all sorts of things. But because Jack in my head was always going to be as he was, and possibly not of the same origin as everyone else, it didn't seem to me to be particularly relevant. It's one of the things where I, apart from costume, layout of Whitechapel buildings and the general background stuff that I always put in to try and make things look more realistic, Jack himself was barely researched at all, apart from dates, locations of his victims and names, so that I had a kind of framework to hang everything on. But I didn't actually research Jack very much at all. I just made it all up, I'm afraid.
I think that's wonderful. Carol M, you have a question.
Hello, can you hear me this time? Because I do shoot
I
last
can.
week.
Hello there.
Lovely, lovely. Bit off topic, but how do you come up with the titles of the books? Because I love the titles, and Symphony of Echoes is really good.
Well, after Just One Damn Thing, which I can honestly say occurred to me in the middle of the night, God knows what I was doing at the time for that to come to me, but Just One Damn Thing after another came to me in the middle of the night. And of course, the quote is prefixed by the words history is. So I Googled quotes about history, and I forget who said it now, but somebody very famous said, history is only a symphony of echoes, and I thought that'll do. A second chance, of course, was easy because it was everybody's second chance. And I found another quote about history being a jangle of something or other, but Accent Press didn't like that one very much. And by now I was running out of history is quotes. So I stepped away from it then. And I remember I was writing A Trail Through Time, and I actually got to the bit where Max realizes that their pod is leaking and they were leaving a trail through time that a blind man could follow. And I thought, yep, that'll do for that title. So I scribbled A Trail Through Time before I forgot, because I have the memory span of slightly less than a goldfish. Recently, I've had one or two problems with titles. I wanted to call The Good, the Bad, and the History. I wanted to call it Closing the Circle. And it went all through my hands as Closing the Circle, because so many circles were closed in that book. And I sent it off to Headline entitled Closing the Circle. And they must have had some sort of meeting or other, because it came back and they said, it's a little bit final. We don't want your fans panicking and thinking there aren't ever going to be any more. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I can't really think of anything else, because my mind was full of Closing the Circle. And it was actually my editor, Frankie, who came back and said, how do you feel about The Good, the Bad, and the History? And I thought, well, yeah, that's not bad. Some of the titles are mine. Some I've taken from the contents of the books. Some are quotes from other much more famous people than me. And some are from Headline themselves, when I've come up a bit short in the title department. So I hope that answers your question.
I have to remember to unmute myself. Thank you. That was a really good answer. And thank you for an excellent question, Carol. Sarah Pennington is next.
I was wondering if you'd actually decided who wrote the second half of the Shakespeare play, or whether that was part of the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wiminess that would never be revealed.
Oh, that's the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey, thingy-wingy thing. Sorry. I really embarked on that sentence without considering where it was going. So sorry about that. Has it all gone quiet? Have I gone deaf?
It has. It's me. I forgot to unmute myself again. Glynis has got her hand up.
It's not a
Glynis,
question.
you're next.
I'm next. It's not a question, but it's a compliment to Jodi. I love in Symphony, in Jack. First of all, Jack the Ripper, your solution to that I call creepy creative. What a creepy way to end Jack's reign of terror, in a way that's not any one of the theories that anybody postulated at the time. Anyway, so creepy creative, very, very brilliant, if you will. I loved when at the end of the storyline, when Max and Cal are certain that it's not over, and they go down to Hawking, and how Leon just accepts that it's not over. He does. Your line is, he didn't argue, he didn't laugh, he sat down beside me. What makes you say that? I would add, he didn't get defensive, he didn't get mad, he didn't get upset, he didn't say you're crazy, like, what's the matter with you, get out of here. He accepted that they knew something that he didn't. And then when Guthrie gets down there and he compresses his lips, Leon says, hang on, Ian, if anyone would know, it would be these two. I just love that, the absolute trust and confidence that Max and Cal knew what was going on. He didn't get defensive or upset or denigrate them or anything. I just absolutely love that. That for some reason just really jumped out at me, and I loved it.
Well, thank you very much. That was what I was aiming for, actually. And the other thing that I was particularly aiming for was that Jack the Ripper was finished by two women. Rather than men. It had to be women who did for him in the end. He just picked one historian too many, didn't he? I like to think, historians, the lethal force in our world. But I was very keen that he would make a reappearance, that he wasn't as dead as they thought he was the first time round. And my brother actually read that one of the few he has read, and he said the description of the thing growing in the petri dish that looked like a cross between a scab and a cauliflower put him off his lunch for ages. And this is Mike, nothing puts him off his food. So I was particularly proud of that as well. But always throughout, he was going to meet his end at the hands of women rather than men. And also that Leon and Ian would make sure that there was never, ever any chance of him coming back again. Hence, I had them going out to sea and dropping the remains in the boat, and then going on a mile and dropping some more, and then another mile and dropping some more. So he was never, ever going to come back.
Well, having women do him in makes it even a more wonderful storyline in my book. So well done.
Thank
well
you.
Done.
Thank you.
Right, we had a question in the sidebar from Elaine, who has now got a hand up. So unmute yourself, Elaine, and explain your question to Jodi.
Thank you. I just love the whole series. It's fabulous. I've even got the mug. And it says we're running on tea and sarcasm. I have questions, and I don't know if you're free to talk about it. But on one of your posts, you said the film company Adorable was looking into making films of the series. And I was just wondering if you had in your head some idea of how that would work. Give me a date. I want to go see it. And maybe ideas for actors to play the parts. Who's doing the screenwriting? Are you that far along? Give me more. Give me more.
No, we're not very far at all. It's taken them quite some time to get me to sign the document and agree. I had to be talked down off the ledge several times by Hazel, by Headline, by Adorable themselves, who took me out to lunch, which was very pleasant. And I was very reassured because they totally get the St. Mary's thing. They understand what it's all about, who the people are, what their aims are, and they keep calling it the St. Mary's thing. So I was somewhat reassured. We haven't really got any further at the moment than just preliminary negotiation, in which I'm being represented by Headline, my publishers. The one that is making a little bit of progress, and I'm very pleased about, just to digress from your question a moment, so sorry about this, they're very keen on doing a bachelor establishment, and they've actually sent me a treatment. That's a technical phrase there, by the way, outlining the story and the direction they think it could go in, which was very interesting to read, and somewhat bravely inviting my comments, which I was happy to provide. And apparently the people that are interested in making it a television series like the fact very much that the heroine is not elderly, but she's not a young person. She's around 40, as is the hero. And it's felt that this is quite representative of the times, and also new and unusual to have not an elderly heroine, quite young if you look at it from my point of view, but someone who's not in her early 20s. So that's proceeding, touch wood, quite nicely. But as I say, St. Mary's is in the very, very, very early stages yet. And apparently these things take years. And I've told them to get a move on because I'm not young and I'd like it all to happen before I die. And if Elon Musk is watching, Elon, stop farting around with Twitter and get your ass to Mars because I'm going to be dead before long. And I remember them landing on the moon in 1968 and me thinking, this is so exciting. No. There will be moon bases. There will be things on Mars. We will go to Jupiter. It's all going to be wonderful. And absolutely nothing has happened. And 50 years or so has gone by. I'm slowly approaching the grave and still they're not on Mars. So Elon, Forget Twitter and go to Mars, for God's sake, before I die. I'm better now, thank you. Shall we proceed?
I've got Keith Jackson's had his hand up for a while, and then I've got Mark Wells. So Keith, go you.
Thanks, Karen. Jodi, you talking about film adaptations and what have you, and I'm sure it's like giving your baby away, but I'll never forget Terry talking about this, because, of course, he had no end of trouble with it. One company tried to do Mort, an American company, and he got quite a long way, and he'd kind of written an outline because he was going to be working with them. And they went to this meeting with this top end American, and he said, "Yeah, high concept, wonderful, great, marvelous. Lose the skeleton."
Actually, I'm sure I've read somewhere that when the Americans wanted to buy Fawlty Towers to produce in America, they didn't want Basil Fawlty because he fell outside the parameters of a normal character. And if you can imagine Fawlty Towers without Basil Fawlty, you know, as an author, teetering on the possible edge of being materialized, it does make your blood run cold sometimes.
I'm sure.
In Revenge, Lights, Camera, Mayhem, which is this year's Christmas story, Calvin Cutter comes back to St. Mary's because he's going to shoot the fall of Troy. But he's going to do his own version, which I hope very much that you will enjoy. And just as a little bit of revenge, I've invented an award called the Bads, which is this year's book adaptation disaster. And this year it's going to an author who wrote a book about Joan of Arc. And Calvin Cutter has readapted it according to his own point of view. And I think you'll all find the ending pretty astonishing.
No, originally I was going to just say that Ruth and I absolutely loved Storm Christopher. We giggled all the way through it. But it struck me towards the end, certainly with Joy to the World, it seemed to close off almost as well as the Something Girl did. But this one, with that particular ending, seemed to open, leave it much more open. Is there a chance of at least one more frog moment?
I have learned never to say never, actually. After I wrote The Something Girl, I said to people, that's it. Unless something horrible happens to Russell and Jenny and they split up or whatever, and that's never going to happen. I think I've taken the story as far as it can go. And of course, no sooner had the words left my mouth than I had an idea for Joy to the World. So I wrote that, and everybody said, "Oh, that's lovely. Do another one." And I said, "Well, no, I can't, because that's everybody dealt with now." And of course, no sooner had the words left my mouth than I thought, "Oh, well, I kind of left Christopher hanging in the air." So I've done another one, and I am absolutely definitely not going to say I think that's taken every character as far as I can go now, because that just opened the floodgates to more new ideas. Possibly short stories in the future. I don't think I would have enough material for a full-length book, actually. But as I say never.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that. And I would like to say that, if I'm allowed to say, Jodi, seeing as you spilt all the beans about Calvin Cutter, that this coming festive folly just before Christmas may well feature the Bad Awards.
Oh, wow, really?
Well, that was your idea. That's what you thought would be a good idea.
Have you got my desk bugged or something? This is worrying. For me, it was just the revenge of authors everywhere for dreadful adaptations of their books. And I think, I'm not going to say that all adaptations are bad, because that would be wrong. Some have been really good. And I've always felt, actually, rightly or wrongly, that it depends whether you see the film first or read the book first. Whichever one you do first, that is the one you are comparing the second one to, and it's never as good. So I think, if you see the film first, there's a very good chance that you would prefer that to the book. But we'll see what happens.
Right, we've got a whole queue and a whole plethora of people.
Yeah, I will stop talking so much. Sorry.
So I've got, just to let you know that I know you're all there, Mark, Cheryl, Estelle and Carol. Mark is next.
Hi,
Go.
Jodi. Just calling you to find out, and if I've missed it, forgive me, but do you have a map somewhere of St Mary's? And if so, where could I find it?
Actually, you do have my desk bug, don't you? Because I am, if you can see this, that's a draft of a floor plan of St Mary's, first and second floors. I'm not showing you anymore. It's proving to be surprisingly difficult. I've given some descriptions in the book, and I'm trying to reconcile those with an actual feasible floor plan, because you have to have things like doors and windows. Apparently they're considered fairly important in the scheme of things. I am working on it. It will appear soon, because Hazel's yelling at me for it, so I don't linger too much, otherwise terrible things will happen to me. So yes, in answer to your question, and I've actually been thinking of doing a bigger one as well, with St Mary's surrounded by the grounds, the lake, the stables and all the other places where things have happened. I'm a bit busy at the moment, so I don't know when that will happen, but it will, I'm sure.
Lovely. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Ali has commented that she hopes the bar's a decent size.
I forgot the bar. I've had to go, and I've taken a huge chunk out of security to put the bar in. So Markham's going to have something to say about that, I think.
Right, hold on. I'm trying to keep up with all the questions on the sidebar. Let's go. I will come back to questions on the sidebar, but I've had people waiting a while. So Cheryl, you're next.
Okay, basically, as an American, I just want to say that once I discovered it, I prefer the British Ghost to American Ghost. We Americans, that's a TV series. The Ghost.
Oh yes, Ghosts. Yes,
Ghost.
yes,
yes. My Kansas accent. Sorry. And also, last month, someone mentioned this cookbook, and so I immediately ordered it. And the rest is cookery.
Yes.
Oh
yes.
my good! It's the best cookbook I've ever looked at.
No. Do not follow my recipe for leek and potato soup.
No,
please don't.
The introduction by you was just hilarious. I laughed out loud when I read it. But no, this if you don't own it, I would really recommend it. And the proceeds go to a charity, which it's yes. Obviously a labor of love.
And they sent me samples as well, because they cooked everything first and sent me a huge box of goodies. I was living in Salisbury at the time, house sitting, and I just sat down to watch the television every night with this massive box of goodies on my lap, and I can honestly vouch for most of it. I loved all of it. It was lovely. All the recipes work, apparently.
Well, no, and the detail is, it gives the ingredients in 3, American, British, and something else. So it's marvelous.
Metric, I expect.
Whatever.
For people like me who haven't really mastered the metric system yet. I know there's 1,000 of everything and everything else, but that's about as far as it goes.
Yeah. But anyway, I just wanted to make a plug in. Again, I just adore everything you write.
Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
Oh, apparently Debbie thinks we should do a St Mary's cook-along one night like Gordon Ramsay did.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I see half the country going up in flames, quite honestly.
What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? Exactly.
Pick a recipe
Shakespeare said, let me count the ways.
Pick a recipe you like to do it for your birthday. We'll all cook your birthday cake each. and we'll send you a
Oh.
photo. You can choose the best one.
That
There you
should
go.
send me off on pancreatic meltdown all over again.
We must have some Mary's first aider amongst us by now, surely. There's got to be someone here who could step in with the insulin injections and the first aid if we need to.
Right. Okay, then.
Sarah Pennington's waving her hand. She can be our nurse hunter.
Sarah's offered, yeah. Sarah's there.
Really used to doing children, but hey, what's the difference?
Mentally, intellectually. After a few margaritas, we're all about age 6. I think we'll be fine.
Right, we've got Estelle next.
Okay, yeah, I just have a quick question about Bairstow's first meeting with Leon, which was in a bar, excuse me, when Leon was down and out. And it's pretty apparent that this was not a chance meeting, that he was recruiting Leon, seeking him out. And I'm curious as to whether Bairstow knew that Leon would be the one going back in time to help him found St. Mary's at that time, or did that come up later?
I think that came up later. In my mind, when I was writing it, Leon was selected for his engineering abilities, you know, because he is a very clever man. And, you know, perhaps that doesn't come through often enough, but he is a bit of an engineering genius. And he served in the army, and their engineers tend to be pretty hot. And let's say he was headhunted then. As his life was going down the tubes. You know, if Dr. Bairstow hadn't turned up, thumped the living daylights out of him and dragged him off to St. Mary's, Leon probably wouldn't have made it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carol M., you're next.
Sorry. Back to the Bachelor establishment, I must say my favourite Jane Austen is Persuasion, because they're older.
Yes.
With an aunt or older than, you know, Fanny Price. So that's my favourite.
Yes.
Also, I have bone to pick. I saw the interview with C.K. McDonald.
Yes.
And I've read the Stranger Time ones, and I've now read all of the Dublin trilogy ones, and Bunny McGarry in America, and the MCM ones, and it's less than a month ago. So you've got me onto that one as well. So yeah, thank you.
There's another nasty habit you formed.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Well done, you.
I'm building a summer house to make it into a reading room. So when I retire, I've got somewhere to go to read.
They are great books though, aren't they?
Oh, brilliant, brilliant books. And I see Brendan Gleeson as Bunny.
Oh, right. Okay, then. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Then we've got John. Thank you, John. Hopefully
Hello.
technologically working.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can.
It's completely wonderful.
You're lit with a rather sinister underglow, but other than that, you look absolutely fine, and we can all hear you.
There's actually no lighting here at all. That's just me being sinister. Yeah, I just wanted to second the whole book thing. It is a really, really good cookbook, and I've set off to make your soup, and luckily I got to the end of the recipe before I even started it, and then just went straight with a cup of soup. So yeah.
Open a packet.
In a past life, I was actually a chef. This is actually, I mean, it's very funny, and I enjoyed your piece, but it's actually a really bloody good book as well. It's a good...
it is. Most of the recipes work, which they don't always do in some books, and most of the recipes are absolutely delicious. So start at page 1 and work your way through, but avoid the leek and potato soup.
And I just again to echo what everyone else has said, love everything you do, but apart from all of the books and everything, this is 2 months on the run. Last month I said, hey, can we have a cookbook? And you said, yeah, this one. And then this month someone says, can we have a map? And then you wave it at us. I think I'm going to ask for a pony next month. But thank you.
Serve you right if one turned up.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I would do with it. But, you know, hey, we'll adapt. Thank you anyway.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Christina Coronado.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Fantastic. Thank you for these talks. I really appreciate it. And Karen and team, thank you so much for all that you do to make this possible. But Jodi, first off, I want to say I'm amazed at how prolific you are. You have stuff coming out, it seems like every few months, and that's got to be a lot of work. So are most of your days spent in your head at St. Mary's or Frogmorton or any of the other worlds that you've created? Are you walking through town getting your groceries, pretending like you're Max, or envisioning what Max is doing? Or tell me, because you have to wait for the next book to come out, and yours is pretty steady.
It's yes to all of that. My work-life balance is, according to people who know about these things, extremely poor, and I have no intention of working on it at all. So that's just tough. I spend a lot of time in my own head, and lockdown for me was a revelation because it meant I didn't have to go out at all, and I had a good reason not to do so. I think I wrote 3 or 4 books during lockdown, and then lockdown ended and I was invited back out into the world again, and I really wasn't that keen, quite honestly. It was very big, very noisy, very dirty, and I'd forgotten there were that many people in the world. So I tend to be a little bit reclusive anyway, but I just spend my time writing, and I'm exceptionally busy at the moment, even by my standards, because I'm doing tons of stuff for my Substack page, building up content there. There are various projects on the go. I am, as usual, working on 2 books simultaneously. And without any prompting from me, I had a stonking idea for next year's Christmas story, which I have begun already, because sadly I'm of the age where if I don't write a thing down immediately, it just disappears. And the awful thing is that I can remember that there was something I had to remember, but what it was I had to remember has just gone completely. Consequently, I have notebooks and bits of paper. There's a look at this big meeting here, a big piece of paper here, which actually says Zoom meeting at 7 o'clock, because otherwise the chances are I might have forgotten. And then I get a hysterical telephone call from people saying, why aren't you Zooming? But yes, I am busy. But before anybody feels sorry for me, I am actually very, very happy being very, very busy. So, and it completely hides the fact that I have no social skills of any kind whatsoever.
Do you ever accidentally call one of your friends, Tim or Helen or Cal?
No,
because you're so lost in your own world?
No, not yet. I have been known to answer the door to members of my family and blink unrecognizingly at them. They keep threatening to wear name labels or something, and I frequently receive telephone calls saying, where are you? You're supposed to be at so-and-so's do at such and such. But no, mostly I think, given the amount of work that I'm creaming through at the moment, I am relatively sane and balanced. I accept I'm in a minority of one, but for me this is pretty good.
I think you do a darn fine job. Thank you for all that you do, Jodi.
Tell my family that, please.
Okay. You send me where to email. I'll send you an email you can forward on. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Christina. We have got, Tammy gave a lovely sidebar and she's got her hand up. So I'm going to leave you to say that when it's your turn. But before you, we've got Joe Tetsab. Nick, you're up, my darling.
Good evening, all.
Hello,
Jodi,
there.
First of all, Jodi, thank you for everything you do and all the pleasure you bring us.
You're very welcome.
The talker and sane and rational and sane and stable. Stay the way you are, please.
That's me. Sane and stable, absolutely.
All I really want to say is all the talk of TV and film adaptations, just 2 words come to mind. Calvin Cutter. Be careful, please.
Yes, yes, I will. It is very possible that after the Christmas Story comes out, nobody in the film industry will want ever to speak to me again anyway. So we may all be worrying unnecessarily.
Thank you very much. All the best. We
Nice
love
to
you
see you
lots.
again, Joe. You take care.
Yes, it is lovely to see you, Joe. Tammy, you're next, my darling. Up you go.
Sorry, I'm still laughing at Ali's comment about Joe sitting on the stairs like Kermit. Jodi, so I'm the daughter of I am a pad brat. My dad was in the military. He's the weird one. He started off in the RAF and then moved to the army.
Okay. Okay, I will admit that is a thing.
And then he ended up in army intelligence, which I think we both know isn't actually a thing, because intelligence and army don't go together.
Yeah, what is it they call that? A contradiction of terms, isn't it? Army intelligence.
Oxymoron.
Oxymoron.
Thank you. That's the words I'm looking for.
I'm not going to tell you what he's saying because he's sat next to me and I don't think it's
Oh my God, he's not, is he?
Yes. But I say it to him every day, so don't worry about it. It's fine.
I've got some warning next time, please.
Well, I've just got him onto your books. He's just started. We've just listened to Christmas Present, so he's getting there. We're getting him into it. But both of us sit there laughing because obviously having grown up in the military, I recognise a lot of the characteristics. You know, Markham is Markham, Leon's Leon. The bit that cracked both of us up in the second book was when Max says she can't see anything and Liam goes, "You can't, I've got a mag light."
Yep.
So what I was sort of wondering was how much of what you write was influenced by your time in the forces, because there must be some memories and links. I mean, we've heard the panda story, but what other stories?
Initially, yes, there was quite a lot of my mercifully brief time in the military. You know, phrases like thumb in bum and brain in neutral, all that sort of thing. That all came from the Air Force. One day, if somebody plies me with enough drink, I will tell you the story of how I managed to set most of West London on high military alert. Got that sorted out, and 20 minutes later did it all again, which apparently is some sort of record. So as I say, ply me with drink one day and I'll tell you how I manage that.
Right, so that's what I need to at Bosworth, fine.
Yes, but it was the sort of atmosphere that I was going for with St. Mary's. It's very like the forces. Nothing works properly. There's never enough money. There's never enough people. Nothing ever works properly. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong in spades. And yet somehow at the end of the day, when all the dust has settled and everybody's bandaged their wounds, it's all turned out okay. And that was very much influenced by my time in the military.
It's amazing what the military can get away with.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we did. Not military, she was crap. Oh, sorry, my dad just said, shush. Sorry, that's the dog joining in there. My dad says you weren't military, you were a crab. They're not the same thing.
Oh, fine. Okay. Not quite sure what to say to that.
It's all right, he's leaving me now, but thank you. That's really interesting.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much for that. We don't have any hands up, which is really quite worrying. Can someone please put, oh, thank you, Sarah. Sarah's put her hand up.
How much did you enjoy destroying Leon's car?
Can you just say the first part of that question again?
How much did you enjoy destroying Leon's car? There was a lot of attention to detail of how it was done, and there appeared to be an element of glee to it.
Yeah, I enjoyed that very, very much indeed. I'm not a good driver myself, and much of what happened to Max as she drove Leon's car has at one time or another happened to me, but not deliberately, I hasten to add, which somehow makes it even worse. My relationship with cars is or anything with four wheels like supermarket trolleys is really not good at all, or even two wheels, even thinking about it. But I thought to myself, right, I've got this vengeful woman who's a bad driver. I've got this lovely, in my head it was a BMW, although I can't remember if I said, this lovely black shiny car that is the apple of his eye. He's just really upset her. What happens next? And I just went with it. And I think I wrote the whole thing actually in one go without stopping at all until finally she finished up in the lake. Which I will say has never happened to me. I've never finished up in a lake, but I did a bit of quick research, and apparently if your car is in water, it is very difficult to open the door because of the pressure of water. And what you're actually supposed to do, although she wasn't that deep, you're supposed to wait until the water gets to the top of the car, and then the pressure equalizes and you can open the door. But that didn't seem to me to be a very good idea at all. So the lake was not that deep on the day that she drove into it. Of course, 3 or 4 books later, it's deep enough to have Viking boats and all sorts of things. So, you know, inconsistent author here.
It rained.
Thank you very much.
It's typically British, you see, because you know
Yes.
we have rain in January, February, March, April, and then in June we have a hose pipe ban because we've
Yes,
got a
somebody
drought.
said to me the other day, given the amount of rain falling from the sky at this moment, she's expecting a hose pipe ban daily.
I know, it's ridiculous. We have some more questions. So Elaine, you're back on again.
Thank you. Jodi, I have to wonder, do you in your head ever have Max talking about the maintaining the timeline with other science fiction time travelers like Doctor Who? I think a conversation between Max and Doctor Who would be really interesting.
When I first started out, I was doing a lot of research on time travel. And of course, there's the 2 famous quotations. Newton said that time is an arrow. It only ever goes in one direction, which is forward, at the same speed. And then, of course, Einstein came along a couple of 100 years later and said time is a river. It flows and it has currents and it moves fast in some areas and slow in other areas. And everybody said, oh, yes, Einstein's right and Newton's wrong. And it's turned out, of course, that they're given the nature of time, that they're both right. So every now and then I try and have a little intelligent discussion about time and time travel in the books. And I've got a lovely piece written down somewhere that I've never actually been able to use. And it's 2 characters from the Time Police having a discussion on whether it is morally right to arrest somebody for a crime you know they will commit, but they haven't yet committed. And of course, this is shades of Tom Cruise's Minority Report. But it's a very interesting point from the Time Police point of view. And of course, it speaks to the question, are our destinies fixed? If you're down to commit a crime, can you avoid committing that crime somehow? And then, of course, you get into predestination and John Calvin, and that's usually where my brain falls out of my ear and I go off and have a cup of tea. But it is fascinating. A fascinating subject to think about. And I'm really sad that I didn't do science at school. I didn't do physics at all. Everything I've written about and I know I've got from Google or various sources. And yes, I did waste my time at school. And I'm rather sorry now because late in life, I'm finding it to be a very interesting subject.
You could always use Mavity. It's one of your quotes. Right, Marianne, then Carol, then Keith again. So Marianne, off you go.
So first the comment. Comment is it seems like there is a whole bunch of Americans on the call today, which is awesome. And hopefully I will see some of you over in the UK for some of the events coming up. Well worth going to. Had the most amazing time at Jodi World last year. So, you know, when there are things, whether it's Bosworth or the con next year, try to come because it is amazing. But now my question, in Storm Christopher, you know, Christopher went from basically being a grub, you know, that you just wanted to squash, to kind of, you know, wanting to embrace him and just, you know, kind of having your heart break for him a little bit.
Yes. Well, that's my favorite
you
trick.
know that, I mean, I was in tears when I got to that point of the story. I mean, literally in tears, because it was just such an amazing story of hope and redemption. And I was just like, did you know you would redeem him, or was that just later?
No, when I started the story, actually, I had no idea where it was going. I was just sitting minding my own business one day, not doing very much. And a voice in my head, Francesca's voice, said, "I'm terribly sorry, Russell. And I didn't mean to do it, but I think I might have killed Christopher." And I wrote that down and started to build the story around it. And of course, Christopher has done time in prison, which we have to remember. And it always seemed to me in that family that, I'm sorry if this is spoilers for anybody, just mute me if you haven't actually read it. But it always seemed to me in that family that it was Richard that was the nasty person, you know, lovely Uncle Richard, who always pretended to be so nice to her and was such a nasty piece of work at the end. And that if they could get away from Richard, then there was hope for the family. Well, there's never going to be any hope for Francesca. She's always going to be wonderfully selfish and amusing and one of my favorite characters. But Julia has got away from Richard now, and she's turned her attention to Christopher. And I think with a lot of work and his own particular helper who's just turned up for him, there will be some redemption for Christopher. And the cat liked him, so he can't be all bad.
Yeah, it was, yeah, and you're right. I mean, and Julia too. Seems like, you know, you're right. Richard was he's definitely the one who's just toxic and psychotic.
And it was always a favorite trick of mine to get my readers to hate somebody, and then a couple of books later turn him round and make him into somebody that they sob over. That is such fun to do.
Well, you can score this one as a win. So.
Thank you.
I had said the same thing to Ashley. I said, she manages to do this every time. You absolutely hate them. And then you feel sorry for them. And Uncle Richard has always reminded me of Vernon Dursley. That's who I picture in my head with Uncle Richard. I always think Mr. Dursley, nasty piece of work.
When I was writing him in my head, I don't know if anybody remembers Hyacinth Bouquet.
Yes.
And her splendidly long-suffering husband, who was so nice and quiet and gentle and self-effacing. And of course, he really was quiet and gentle and self-effacing. But that was my Uncle Richard until the very end, when he revealed himself for what he really was. And I often wonder what would have happened if Hyacinth Bouquet's husband had snapped suddenly and taken an axe to her.
That would have been interesting. See, these writers, they've got no idea. You need to do lessons for the writers of these sitcoms to get them to do this sort of thing. I thank you also, Marianne, for the plug for Jodi World, which is next May, and Bosworth, which is on the 29th of June, for which we still have some tickets. Please, please, please come, because we need to make it financially viable. So the more of you that buy tickets, the more we're able to afford to do for you.
Yeah, we had such fun last time as well, didn't we?
Yes.
Where were we?
We did the Festive Folly, which was in Nottingham.
That was
and
it.
Then the
we were
convention,
at Nottingham.
the convention was at Coventry,
Yeah.
and the next convention is going to be at Coventry again. They've got an amazing 45 accessible rooms this time with walk-in showers, which is amazing. They've added new rooms, and they're desperate for us. So they're bending over backwards, putting in disability ramps hither and yon, and they're being really
Have they
amazing for
learned
us.
how to make margaritas?
Apparently, yes, they have. They are going to ensure that margaritas will be properly provided for. Yes,
Well,
we've got
I'm
it in
not
writing.
going. I'm not going unless they have that lovely lad who dyes his beard blue again in honor of St. Mary's. Do you remember that lovely waiter? And he was perfectly normal when we turned up. When we left, he had a blue beard.
Yes, we're still a lot of the staff will be, they were all brand new staff when we went there the first time, so now they're used to it and they know what to expect with us, so it should be good fun. Carol and Keith and then Cheryl. So Carol, off you go.
I've listened to the extract from Killing Time and what you've just said about the Minority Report thing. You could have Tucker and Claw doing that, seeing as they are, it would fit with them whilst they're waiting on a mission, that they could discuss it.
That's a really good idea. I was quite taken with Tucker and Claw when I was writing them, and I think they definitely, Tucker especially, has a future in the Time Police. So yeah, I'm writing a bit for him at the moment, so watch this space.
Also, we all know
recording in progress.
That time is timey-wimey and not straight.
Time is a river.
We're all looking forward to Doctor Who next week.
Yes, it's going to be interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
Not. No.
Right, we have Keith again.
Excuse me. I spent most of my working life in engineering research, which obviously means writing loads of reports, and I've written 3 theses and what have you. And usually when you give stuff to another person to review for you, the great majority of them will come back with an alternative form of words, which they think will improve it. When a friend and colleague of mine was reviewing my PhD thesis, he didn't do that. He made notes in the margin. It was things like too verbose, too tight. You've introduced this contraction before you've defined it, and things like that. So, and I said, well, that's great, but why are you doing that? And he said, so you've got one voice in the whole document, not broken up by bits of you and bits of me. How did the editors work with you, Jodi?
Exactly as you've described. I get my manuscript back from Frankie with margin notes, and it will say things like, can we have 2 or 3 lines here just to explain his motivation? It's not clear. Or you said this before, 3 paragraphs up, suggest you prune this, that sort of thing. And initially you think, but there is no point in having the services of a really world-class editor if you don't listen to them. So 90% of everything that Frankie says I can accept, and she makes my books so much better than they were when I sent them off to her. Obviously, there are some things where I do argue, and I do argue, and I will say, no, I want this to remain because this is a seed for the next book when I want to do this, and explaining why I want to have something in the manuscript clears my own mind, and makes things much easier for me. I am always very conscious that mine is the deciding voice, and if I say, no, I'm not going to take your advice, I'm going to do this instead. I always think, as I said, what is the point of having an excellent author if you don't take their advice? It's very difficult. Mine is the deciding voice, and so I make sure, because I can say no, I make sure that I don't say no very often. Does that make sense? I'm sorry, I'm
It
really
does,
not
but because you
explaining this
thought
very well.
you've been made to
I'm
think
like the
about it, haven't you?
Queen.
You've
I'm
been
like
made
the
to think
Queen.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by explaining to her why
Mhm.
I want to have something
Yeah.
this way,
Yeah.
clarifies it in my
Yeah.
own mind, and I can
Exactly.
then weave
Exactly.
that into the manuscript.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
yes, oh thank God, because I was burbling on there and I wasn't sure I was making
No,
any sort
I
of
mean,
sense
it,
at
I mean,
all.
it can be remarkable. I remember Doug put at one point that, yeah, this needs expanding considerably. I kept going back to it. No, keep going. I ended up with another 7,500 words.
Yeah. Yeah, I sent off the manuscript for Small Hope and Pennyroyal at a very respectable 110,000 words. And by the time I got it back from Frankie with, I love this bit, can we have more? Or I love Pennyroyal and Small Hope's relationship here, can I have more? Or can you write a couple of paragraphs to explain why this is happening? And I sent it back to her at 125,000 words. So she won't do that again in a hurry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But we'll be delighted because the more words we get, the happier we are.
Well, I must admit, because Small Hope and Pennyroyal is a little bit different, I do get occasionally very nervous about it. I hope very much that everybody likes it because I put a lot of myself into that. In fact, I should have been finishing off Bad Moon, Elizabeth Cage, and starting the Time Police 6, which is out of time. And Small Hope and Pennyroyal preyed on my mind to such an extent that I simply couldn't finish either of them, and I had to put them both to one side and just sit down and write what I thought was a short story, and has turned out to be a short story of 125,000 words. So when I say now I'm writing a short story, nobody believes me, strangely enough.
Oh, we don't mind. The more, the better. Cheryl.
I just wanted to comment without giving anything away for anybody that hasn't read The Good, the Bad, and the History. I'm very upset that you took a character that I really liked through several novels. Several. There was no hint. I have gone back and tried to read to find out, okay, there was, you give no clues.
No.
When did you think that up? That was just brilliant, brilliant.
Almost from the word go. He wasn't too good to be true. He was just perfect. And I thought, yeah. So that's why I did it.
Yes.
I knew people would like him, and I wanted people to like him, and he turned out to be not so likable in the end.
Don't do anything to Peterson. I like Peterson. I'm in love with Peterson. So please don't
think I've had to sign something somewhere in blood. I definitely remember opening a vein to say that nothing will ever happen to Markham or Peterson. That doesn't mean they won't suffer, but they will survive.
Thank you.
Again, and Matthew apparently as well.
Sorry?
I just wanted to say, along with everyone else, the Pennyroyal book, I'm waiting for Killing Time, and then now I have to wait until October for the next one.
Yes. On the other hand, 2 books this year and a short story, 2 short stories. So yeah, not too bad.
Very good. Again, please stay healthy.
Cool.
Some of us were reading Game of Thrones before it came out as a TV series. You're amazing.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Right, I have now unmuted. I think that's probably about it. We're literally around time. Somebody did say, you can't do anything to Matthew either. That was John.
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay, then. So noted.
Okay.
So I think that's it, unless anyone else has got anything to say. Oh, Carol has. Go on, Carol. Oh, she wants to say thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Some of my answers were a bit long. I've burbled on a bit this evening, so sorry about that.
We've decided between us, Jodi and I, that next month we're going to do a free reading month. So you can read whatever you like and ask her questions about whichever book you like.
Oh, good.
Next talk. And I need to look at dates in the diary as to when we can do our next one. Mary Ann, when are you available?
Just checking now. Hang on one sec. Okay, so normally we would be doing the first weekend is June 9th, right? No.
The second
That's the
or the
second
9th,
weekend.
yeah.
Okay, okay, the first weekend on Sunday, well, I'm probably not available. I'm gonna be in France and I'm gonna be traveling from Paris to Montpellier on a train on Sunday. So I'm probably, but can we do the 9th?
Yeah, and it's for me, that's only a couple of days after the Battersea Bookshop event. Which is on the 30th, by the way. The date's been finalized. So
Yes.
30th of May at 6:30, I think, Battersea Bookshop. I've forgotten about that. So the 9th is better for me if it's better for everyone else.
The 9th is excellent.
Yeah,
However, you
that
are
would be
all
awesome.
banned from talking about Killing Time if you manage to get it at Battersea, because I'm not going to get it till the 29th of June. when we're going to the Bosworth battlefield. So you're not allowed to talk about it.
I second that because I won't get it until Bosworth either. So.
Okay, then. So that's the rule. Then no talking about Killing Time.
Brilliant. So it's for the 9th. Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you all. There are a few of us, not including Jodi, who want to have a little Bosworth meeting at the end. So those of you who want to stay, Fee, Debs, and where is she? I've lost you. There you are. There's Debbie. So those of you that are staying, stay. Everybody else, thank you very much. And thank you to Jodi. Goodbye.
Thank you, Jodi. Thank you,
Bye
Jodi.
bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Charlie, there she is. I thought I'd lost her. Bye, Joe. And Fred. You need to lose Fred as well. He's gone. Right.
Yeah, we've
Hi,
lost Fred.
people.
Hello, Karen. Hi, Debbie.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I bet you
Go
are.
back to bed.
That I'm just not with it yet. I'm
Yeah,
really
no, I
not with
know.
it, guys. I'm so sorry.
You need to crawl back into bed.
I've been in bed all afternoon. I'm still in my pajamas.
Charlie
Oh,
can't
Charlie can't unmute herself. Hold on. Ask. Oh, I don't know. Can you rejoin maybe, Charlie?
No, and I should probably pause the recording at this point. So we don't need to